Hi again, welcome back to Sci-Fi Scavenger, my booktube channel. We're going to do another instalment of the catch-up book haul. Trying to catch up with where I've got to with buying books over the last few weeks. It turns out I bought quite a lot. I made the mistake of totaling up the amount that I've spent during April so far, and it's kind of eye-watering. So I've got to get that under control for next month. There's a few things I can do about that. I need to stick to my less expensive haul locations, the charity shops. I need to stick to buying books in person for small amounts of money, rather than getting impatient and buying them on eBay or wherever, because that quickly adds up. But anyway, so what we're going to do tonight is this shelf behind me here, this one, that has I would describe it as vintage, certainly in comparison to most of my books, vintage science fiction that I've bought in the last month or so. So we're just going to grab a few at a time off of the pile and run through them. The first one is a copy of a recent copy. It's in, it's basically new. This one was published in, wow, actually it's not that new, 2001. So that is over 20 years old, and it's never been read, it looks like. I have read this book, not this particular one, but this story many years ago. It's kind of a post-apocalyptic tale. It's really good, at least I recall it being really good. I wouldn't mind reading it again at some point. If I find this was originally published in 1964, so if I find a nicer copy with more contemporary to when it was published initially, then I'll trade up. But this is a nice one to have on the shelves in the meantime. Cost me £2.99. Must have been an Oxfam, I think. And then bought mainly for the cover. There's a preponderance of nakedness or near nakedness on the covers from books of this era. I don't know what they were thinking. The 2023 sensibilities that I carry now as the father of two daughters is a little bit bemused by the whole thing. The adolescent part of me, which is obviously still there, is thinking, well, hey, semi-naked women can't be bad. But I guess they must have worked on the basis that their target market was adolescent and young men in the main, and that would be the kind of thing that would attract their attention, and maybe they were right. So this is one of many. In fact, it says number 11 in the Martian series by Edgar Rice Burroughs, was the title given to the film, which I haven't seen, but which tanked a few years back, but allegedly is better than it was given credit for at the time. I don't know. So like a lot of other folks in this game, one of the reasons I like to buy these books is to read, ultimately, of course, but because the covers were just different level back then, they just don't make them like this anymore. So that's quite a colourful one. Delaney, the Einstein intersection. Not read it, don't know anything about it. There's more boobs on this cover, although in abstract form, so perhaps less offensive. I actually read this one recently. I quite enjoyed it. And the nice thing about these is they didn't get too big for their boots, the authors with these books, and maybe because I had to crank them out pretty quick. But they're not very thick. You can read them in a day or two, at one sitting if you're really determined. They're kind of 150 pages or less. Okay, the typeset's pretty dense, but they're not 900-page squirrel killers that take a month to finish. I quite enjoyed it. I might do a review at some point, or at least gather my thoughts in a shorter video at some stage. But definitely pleased to have it. Brian Aldiss, it's called Report on Probability A. Again, wacky cover. This one's not in brilliant condition. It's this is from 1973. It's a little bit younger than me, so it's a bit dinged up, a bit like me. Eye of Cat by Roger Zelazny, another surreal cover. Don't know anything about that. I don't think I've, apart from, no, I don't think I've ever read anything by Roger Zelazny. This is quite a portentous title, The Dramaturgies of Yan, with a cool looking sort of, I don't know what it is, space station, dreadnought thing on it, on the cover. That was first published in 1972. This edition is from 1974, so you know, again, getting on for 50 years old. I've never read, in all my years of reading science fiction, I've never read any Piers Anthony. But that's some mad shit on the cover there. What is that? Like an alien devil goat thing with tentacles? We shall see. I've been hearing a lot of it. It's, again, it amazes me. One of the other things, many things that amaze me about this genre is despite having read science fiction for 40 odd years, I can still come across authors that other people rave about that I've never heard of, never mind read anything by. So this is a case in point. Robert Silverberg, supposedly experiencing a bit of a renaissance recently in terms of relevance and people reading him, supposedly very, very good. I'm looking forward to getting into. I've got a few of his. Whenever I see them, I pick them up. So that one's Vaughan and 19. Just for a change, a sort of naked fella on the front this time. This one is a Gollancz classic sci-fi edition of Time of Changes, again by Silverberg. Nice colourful cover. And I think it's the third Silverberg that I have, that's a third of three, is the Time Hoppers. It's a bit dinged up. In fact, it's got a rip on the back where I carelessly removed the charity shop price tag, which is a bit silly of me. But you know, it's not in good condition anyway, so I don't think I've dramatically reduced its value. And we've got Star Child by Frederick Pohl and Jack Williamson. You can manage to get that without the glare. Again, like a wacky cover. Cost me like $1.50 in Oxfam or something. Your guess is as good as mine. In fact, if any of you, like the 10 people that watch this, if any of you have read any of these and want to share any thoughts about them, that would be great. So E. Doc Smith. I think this one is a standalone novel, and it looks to me like a Chris Foss cover, but I don't know. I can't see a reference to him anywhere, but it's that kind of vibe. It doesn't say anywhere. No. Yeah, so the Galaxy Primes, don't know what it's about. I like the cover. He's famous mostly for the Lensman series, I think. So this is I was about to say the second because it's called Second Stage Lensman, but that's not right. It's the 5th volume, it says right here on the back, and that's in pretty good condition for a book that is 49 years old. So you know, no, sorry, 50 years old. So it's you know, it's survived the years. Got that musty old book niff. I've got over here some really bad copies of the whole Lensman series, which I probably rushed into buying in a bit of a supermarket sweep in the Oxfam bookshop in Henley when I first went there, and was a bit bamboozled just by the quantity of books that there were there. It has the benefit of being a full set, but they're in pretty shitty condition and they're not very nice versions. They look pretty cheap and nasty, so I'd much rather have the Panther edition. So I'll just look out for them. Eventually they'll turn up. There's another Panther E. Doc Smith. It's not. It's a standalone novel, I believe. Subspace Explorers. Again, cool looking picture on the front. I would guess that's another Chris Foss. But oh yeah, cover illustration indeed by Chris Foss on the back. There's a danger of a book avalanche over here, so I have to be careful where I put things. So I've got not one, but two copies of War of the Worlds. One at a House of Stratus recent-ish anyway, let's see. 2002, so 20 odd years ago, but it's in as new condition, doesn't look like it's been read. Hardback. And then a much older a reprint from 1974, which is in less good condition, as you'd expect. Penguin paperback. I think I've experienced War of the Worlds entirely through the Jeff Wayne musical and the Tom Cruise movie. I don't think I've ever read the book, so I should put that right. There's another H.G. Wells, Time Machine. It's a Sci-Fi Masterworks edition. Nice cover, showing about the spine. Again, I've never read it, so about time I fix that. Next we've got, in no particular order, a Clifford Simak. Again with a cool cover. Looks like a flying dildo at the top there, but I imagine that's meant to be a spaceship. That was sold for 2 and 6, so published February 1962, so it's even older than me. And then there's a few Paul Andersons. Is it Paul or Powell? Powell? I don't know. This one is called Fire Time. Never read it. Looks like another Chris Foss cover to me. Doesn't say. And this one is Trader to the Stars. That's by covers by Anthony Roberts, not Chris Foss. And this one is called The Byworlder. Aye. Plenty of eyes. This one's set early in the 21st century. So I'm sure it's dated badly. This one was published in 1974. And another Anderson, this time Kinship with Stars. My maybe I need to be more discerning and have a list of books that I ought to own that are of particular merit. But right now I'm operating like a science fiction magpie, and if I see something shiny or interesting looking, regardless of whether I know anything about it or intend or want to read it at any point, I kind of just shoveling it into my bag, ready to leave. So it's a bit of a random selection. Right, what else have we got? Okay, so Charles Sheffield, hear good things about him. This is Trader's World. Good, really clean copy. Looks to me like it's never been read, and yet it is from 1988, so not that old. There's a Brian Stableford. Again, hear good things about him. This must be from the 70s, yeah, well, originally published in 79, this one was printed in 1984. And we got a couple of Arthur C. Clarke's, in fact 3 of them, as Expedition to Earth. It's a Sphere paperback. That book is from 1954, so it's pretty old, but this one was published in 72, or printed in 72. Then there's 2 copies of A Fall of Moondust. I bought one, not realising that I already had the other. One is a nicer copy, so that's the other one, so that's both of them together. I read this story in my early teens. So that one's from 1971, and this one is from, which I think is the nicer copy, from 1974. So do you know what? They're different. I've got room on the shelves. I'll just keep them. But I read it a long time ago and enjoyed it at the time. So I'll get that out at some stage. And in in keeping with the theme of like totally gratuitous boobs on the front of books, there is a sexy robot with no clothes on. An early Orson Scott Card. I think it's short stories. Yeah, short stories by Orson Scott Card. Yeah, so that would be interesting. What have we got here? Lester Del Rey, The Sky is Falling, another jazzy cover, and another book that's in definitely good, arguably very good condition. It's a bit yellowed on the edges of the page, and I think we're right in thinking that little line on it means it was remained in stock at the time. I don't know. That one dates back to 1973. Stephen Golding, Mind Flight, that I bought just because I like the look of the colour, the cover. Frederick Pohl, O Pioneer. It looks like they've got loads of faces of Bow, if you remember those Doctor Who episodes. And then a really tatty old one. I'm not really sure why I bought this other than, sort of panic. Mission of Gravity by Hal Clement. It's a really old one. Got the price scrawled on it in shillings and pence. And that one dates back to 1963. Let us see. We're getting there. Michael Swanwick, In the Drift. Larry Niven, at least I know who he is. The Flight of the Horse. Short stories, it seems. There are 7 or 8 short stories in there. Do that at some point. Michael Moorcock, Stormbringer. No boobs on the cover of this. It makes a change because quite a lot of his books do. This one came out in 1960. This printing is 1968, and it's in really good condition. It's very clean. And there's another Robert Sheckley, A Breathtaking Voyage of Wit and Wonder Through the Magical Realms of the Mind. It was his first novel in 8 years. It's got a whole George R.R. Martin vibe going on there, maybe. But it's called Options. Don't know what that's about. Alan Dean Foster, who I remember, I had a book of his when I was a kid, which was called Splinter of the Mind's Eye. It was a Star Wars spin-off, kind of set between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, I think. And I remember that being really good. And I think I've read the Alien tie-in as well. But this is I gather, quite well-regarded standalone novel that he's done that's not a tie-in. Again, in reasonable condition. Bit creased down the spine. A. Van Vogt, Earth's Last Fortress. Cool cover. And then Wilson Tucker, never heard of him. Ice and Iron. There we go, that's more like it. Michael Moorcock with two, not one but two scantily clad ladies with a gun. The Adventures of Una Persson and Catherine Cornelius in the 20th Century. I don't think I've ever read a Michael Moorcock. It's the first time for everything. This one is Fistful of Delights by Christopher Hodder Williams. It's got a squished heart. It's allegedly one of the most terrifyingly prophetic novels of the decade. So, did I say Fistful of Delights? A Fistful of Digits, which it claims on the back here is a natural successor to 1984. So I'm guessing that's somewhat doom-laden. This one is by John Christopher, if I remember. Yeah, so author of Death of Grass. Didn't you write the Tripods books as well, or am I imagining that? I don't know. I'm probably confusing him with someone else. Anyway, the year of the comet, that one is. Joe Haldeman, he of the Forever War, and this is one called Mindbridge. It's got a pretty cool cover on it. I'll save the dick for last. So these are 4 of the, I don't know how many, World of the Tears the first 3 claim to be the first, second and third volume in the World of Tears trilogy, and then the 4th one is the 4th volume in the World of the Tears quartet, so I guess he decided 3 wasn't going to do it. Interestingly for me is that they're all in awesome condition. I bought the first 3 in the Oxfam bookshop in Woodley, which is sort of between Reading and Wokingham. You know, again, for a book that's, let's see, yeah, 50 years old, there's not a mark on it. It's in, they're all three of them that I got there are in super condition. Nice artwork on them. And then the 4th one I got in Scuba Books in London. So I think I paid the same for this one as I did for all 3 of these, or not far off it. That goes with the territory. So I've never read any Philip Jose Farmer. There's clearly quite a lot that I've never read. So I'm looking forward to giving those a bash at some point. Right, let's do... actually, there's a recent printing of the Canticle for Leibowitz. That one I have read, but a few years back. At some point I wouldn't mind grabbing an older, more vintager copy of that book. I really liked it. I gather there's a sequel. I think there's a sequel. In fact, I think they're the only 2 books that he wrote, if I remember rightly. Written in 1959. And then I've got a few Philip K. Dicks, some of which I've read, some of which I haven't. Philip K. So that's Minority Report, which I think was originally published as something else, but when the film became successful, they stamped that on it. That's short stories. A couple of sci-fi masterworks, or SF masterworks, Philip K. Dick Ubik, which I gather is good, but never read it. This one I have read recently, The 3 Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch, which I quite enjoyed. It's very much of its time, but I enjoyed it. And then there's the Man in the High Castle, printed in well, I don't know when. Looks fairly recent to me. But anyway, it's not in very good condition, but it's the only copy I've got. So I only know this story from the TV show, so I should read that at some point. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? So I'd have had to be living under a rock for most of my life not to know that that's what Blade Runner was based on. So I have never read the book, big fan of the movie. And there's A Maze of Death, again Philip K. Dick, don't know what that's about. And The Game Players of Titan. And finally, Philip K. Dick, The Man Who Japed. Don't really know what japing is in the context of this. I think it means exactly what you think it means, the japing as in joking, playing pranks. So, The Man Who Japed. I think that's everything, yeah, so that's that shelf cleared. I don't know, as I've been going through that, I'm kind of aware that I've got this sort of random set of oldish books that are sort of mostly 50 odd years old, most of which in fact I know nothing about. I've never read them, never read anything by the author. So as I sit here now, I'm wondering why I've got them, other than it seemed like a good idea at the time, and I like some of the cover art. So I'm going to gradually, I think I'm going to alternate between an older book and a new one, or more recent one, as I'm reading through, trying to munge through my my to be read pile, which is quite extensive now. But you know, I'm not going to stop getting them, particularly if I've got sets to complete. Who doesn't love a complete set? But anyway, that's the end of tonight's video. I will leave it there. I still have a few shelves of recent acquisitions to get through, so I'll do a few more of these over the coming weeks, and then we'll be caught up, and I can maybe do a few other things. But that's it for this evening. If you, as I said, if you've read any of those and want to give me any pointers, then let me know in the comments. If you hit the like button, if you would, and then subscribe, and then you can catch up with me on the next video. So thank you. Have a good evening. I'll see you later.